Hello everyone, my name is Simon and we are the Whales of Wall Street. In today's video we're just going to do an unbiased opinion on the banks versus crypto. So obviously there's been a lot of information being spread out across the country in the last few days about our banks. For example, mine personally, Barclays, blocking the ability for me to buy and purchase crypto via debit and credit card. And as we've seen from an FCA update around a week or so ago, other banks would take part in this as well. So we have seen the likes of Santander being added to that. I think a couple of other names listed originally were things like Lloyds, TSB as well. So I'm sure there'll be more and more of this happening over the couple of weeks. But what I wanted to do today, now that I've calmed down a bit about this scenario, still annoyed, but calmed down a lot, is have like an unbiased, on the fence kind of opinion as to, is this the right thing for banks to be doing? Is it right for us? And is that safety narrative that they've been using, right? Should they be doing some other kind of communication, or allowing us to do things in different ways? And also, maybe, just maybe, it's not the banks we should be annoyed with. So let's go into a few of these articles that we've got up here. Now, as I've mentioned already, we know from all the news recently about what's going on. And in the last week or two, there have been a substantial amount of banks stopping us from being able to purchase crypto in the traditional ways that we have been in the past. And why is that? Well, there are quite a number of articles sort of picking out various points. Most are sort of focusing really on that whole kind of safety element that in this principle of Binance were trying to create a subsidiary of Binance UK. It didn't materialize through not meeting required standards from the FCA's standardization program in terms of money and finance. So there's that aspect as well, and then there's the aspect of the risk management side of things. So are Binance doing enough to tell us that we may lose our money, or it's not guaranteed, you might get hacked and that sort of thing. Whereas with banks, for example, traditionally, if for example some kind of fraudulent activity occurs, there's insurance in place and backup in place, not by you but by the bank, to re-put that money into your account, or help you in that kind of safety feature. So I understand that point, and I know some of the exchanges, for example like Binance, do recommend on their pages that they do have some kind of insurance in place, but I don't really find a massive amount of information on that. So from that point, I kind of half get it. And the FCA obviously has a duty, as we've got here, to protect us and general public, including institutions, when it comes to investments and things like this. So don't get me wrong, like I do understand that side totally. And this is quite a good article. I recommend reading it. It's from May on the FCA's website. And it's just mentioning about the extension program that they're giving to all of these exchanges and institutions that are looking to get into crypto. They're increasing that deadline to, I believe, next year in March, so March 2022. The original deadline was September this year, but they've taken in consideration, obviously, the pandemic last year. So a lot of merchants and businesses weren't able to put infrastructure in place in time to accommodate crypto. So the FCA, to be fair, in this kind of article and what they're planning to achieve with crypto and the monetary system, is they're not saying no to it. They're actually giving the opportunity for these exchanges to get in line with standardization and authority power, and get things in place for standardizations to help protect people. And they've given the extension. Now that I find quite interesting, and I do think it's interesting as well about the response to the virus. Obviously, everything's shutting down for so long, and as most of you know out there, we've seen many businesses disappear or have to shut down for that year, and obviously you can't do anything in that period of time. You can't go to your store, you can't open it, you can't put all these things in place. People are uncertain about money, so they don't want to spend money on these kind of infrastructures. So it's totally understandable. But also in terms of trying to reduce the risk of fraud. So one of the key things that, for example, in this Scotsman article pick out is there's so many scams out there in social media and things like this. So they're trying to put more protection in place for these kind of exchanges and platforms. Now, what I don't understand at this point, and I know in other countries they block other things, so I think in America some have problems with Binance in general anyway, and Coinbase and stuff like this, particular assets. It's a level of protection, and I totally understand that. And the reason we're doing this in unbiased opinion is because I want to make clear that having done more research and have more thought about it, the anger perhaps isn't towards the banks. Maybe it's actually towards the exchanges for not doing more quicker and not doing more in general to abide by the laws of these countries or the monetary system standardizations of these countries to develop and bring their platforms to the communities. So arguably you could say, like, say in 2 years time something happens to your crypto and you're angry about it, would you go to the bank and blame them to try and recover your money? Would you go to the exchange to try and blame them and recover your money, with the fact that there's no regulation to say that actually there's nothing that we can do about it? So put that shoe on the other foot and think about that for a second, and you can kind of see what they're doing. Not saying it's right or wrong the way they've done it, but I understand the background to it a bit more now. So let's have a think about that a bit more. But yeah, of course, it is bizarre that it's only Binance. Now, what I haven't looked into is other exchanges right now. I'm trying to sort of delve into more and more of them, into their terms and conditions and things like that. You know, things like KuCoin, etc., all in various markets and various countries in terms of setup. Binance being Cayman Islands, so yeah, that may be a question mark for the FCA and how they're perhaps distributing their subsidiaries across the world and how that affects people in each of those different markets as well. So there's a lot to think about. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. So we've got things like Visa, obviously, you know, very much heavily involved with crypto in terms of exchanges, you know, backing exchanges with their own cards and allowing cryptocurrencies to be transacted through their system. So we've just seen here, for example, more than $1 billion worth of cryptocurrency was spent by consumers globally on goods and services through their crypto-linked cards in the last 6 months. That is incredible. Just make sure, yeah, July 7th. So this is credible, relatively new news. That's a substantial amount of money floating about in this space, and via such a well reliable source of Visa as well. So this is going to keep growing. But the banks, I can't imagine them being this stupid to block it completely, because there's no doubt about it. They're going into CBDCs. They're going to have to work with people like Visa and MasterCard in terms of crypto abilities and things like that anyway. Are they biding themselves more time to catch up? Because I do believe they're very well behind a lot of these projects in crypto, as well as the exchanges themselves as well. They're probably looking at the exchanges and going, hang on a minute, they can deliver loans without deadlines. They can deliver crypto cards with no fees. What are we doing? Well, it's very apparent, and I've said this in previous videos, I do think that the banks are showing a massive weakness, and they're using the narrative of the FCA as a smokescreen. Arguably, they've got an excuse now to go, sorry guys, it's not us. The FCA have told us to do it. But there are some banks still out there that allow us to transact with crypto in terms of buying and on the exchanges, etc. And we just got to keep looking out for that sort of thing. I'm tempted in the next, I think today, I'm probably going to be closing my Barclays account, because I'm furious about the fact they've used the narrative of safety, not communicated to me as a customer, to say what I should and shouldn't be doing. Now, I'm not a major investor in terms of how long I've been doing it. I know what I'm doing, and I know the risks. And if tomorrow all my money goes out of an exchange because I haven't put it on my ledger properly, that's on me. I could turn around and blame Binance or blame the banks, etc. But that's not what I'm about. I know the risk. I know what it's about. And a lot of people don't. And that's understandable as well, because it's still new to a lot of people. I think it's something like 0.1% of people in the world invest in crypto. It's such a small amount, and there's such a large amount of people out there that, you know, want to, you know, get involved more and more with crypto as time goes on. And, you know, we've got to protect those people who don't know what they're doing. You know, there's a lot of scams on YouTube. You go on all these various YouTube channels and you see, you know, oh, WhatsApp me. Oh, so and so is a great investor. You should follow him. Follow him on WhatsApp. Follow him on Twitter. And then all of a sudden you get bombarded with nonsense, email phishing scams, and all this and that. So I understand the FCA approach. What I don't like is the way the banks have approached it. And what they should do is come out and apologise to everyone and say, look, we've done this based on the FCA recommendation. And, you know, we should have communicated that we were going to potentially do this. Give people the opportunity, if they wanted to bring their money out of exchanges or put more money in with a small sort of deadline for those that want to do it. And I think that's maybe where the annoyances come from my side, is no communication, no education around it. They've just gone, yeah, sorry, Simon, we're not letting you do what you want to do anymore. But then also the question arises where we talked about, you know, cashless society and the control of banks, everything's on smartphones. When does that stop? When does that barrier stop of what else are they going to start doing this with? Why haven't they done it with gambling and things like that? A lot of people have asked in comments and questions. Well, there's regulation in place for gambling and horse racing and things like this. So that's why that's still continuing. You've got to think about the difference between gambling and trading. There is an element that's very similar in terms of you are gambling on the sense that it might go up or down. Similar to if you're in a casino, you're throwing it in roulette on black or red. Either could happen. So obviously casinos and the gambling and gaming industry has had regulation for decades, and the business in general has been around for, well, centuries, if not millennia, all the way back to the rolling dice and things like this. So there's been, you know, a lot of things out there where people have asked many questions. I'm just trying to put some of those to bed as to, you know, why are they allowing us to do this, but they're okay with not allowing us to do things like exchanging on crypto. And it is just purely down to the standardization and the regulation that the FCA has put in place to try and protect the people. I'm no way standing by the banks. All I'm doing is giving two sides of the story, because it's very easy for us. We're all almost like tribal, if you like, in crypto space, where we think crypto is versus the world, when actually we need it to combine somehow. You know, keep it decentralized, but the regulation does need to come in to protect people in some way. Because at the moment, the only real way to get your money into exchanges and go into the crypto life and cycle is to use an existing financial systems method to do that. So for now, they need to work that, you know, combination out before we start, really moving forward. And don't get me wrong, I know the banks are scared because they're losing out on the service opportunity with loans, with the ability of transactions and things like this. People won't want to store money in banks anymore. They want to store it in their exchanges because they've got things like, as we've got on site here, you know, the Visa cards that are coming from Binance. I know some countries have already got them out there. Again, sorry, my internet is terrible. No fees, cashback, and all of this stuff like Visa, which is very important in terms of the partnership. Similar to crypto, various platforms of how much you need to stake of Crow to get the various cards, and each card has its own, you know, reward program and loyalty scheme, and really cool functions like it actually pays for your Spotify, Netflix, Prime, etc. Now, you put that into context, that's good £7, £8, £9 per platform right there. Discounts on travel and things like this. Again, linking up partnerships that they already have with crypto in that side of things. Private jet partnership, that'd be nice. I'm sure that'll happen to us one day. So, you know, there's alternatives already there, and I think the banks are knowing this. This is why they're very forceful at the moment of pushing that, as well as using the narrative of the FCA. We're trying to protect you. We're trying to keep you safe. That's not a sly sarcasm there. I I do understand, but I think the way they've done it has infuriated people, and with that kind of crypto tribal element, we are seeing like a good versus bad, like the old Egyptian gods fighting, dark versus light, sun, sun versus Ra, and all of this, sun and set. Sorry. So let's see how this develops. Just keep in mind that probably more and more banks will delve into this kind of blocking. There are loop arounds, as I've mentioned, using other exchanges to transfer across to Binance, or simply use a different exchange that has the ones that have on Binance. One thing I have done for majority, maybe like 90 odd % of my cryptos at the moment, are now on Ledger wallets. I always recommend those kind of things, and I'll try and drop that video maybe today or tomorrow on ledgers and how they work and why you should have them or use them or need them. Just keeping them safe, so if we do go into a black hole for a year or something, I know that they're there, and they're safe and sound. There are soft wallets that you can use. I don't use them personally, but we can go through all of that in the next video. But hopefully, what I would say is things like Binance, because of these extended deadlines, they just go and do what's needed from the FCA. Keep the decentralized element, of course, and I'm sure they will all do that, because there are, I believe, some exchanges out there that already adhere to the FCA's standardizations and things. Just do it so that that's all clear. Then there's more clarity, and then there's less worry from people, and people start using it more and more again. The only other thing I would say as well is this gives opportunity for people in other countries and other economies to take advantage. Similar to like with Coinbase in the US, where some assets got blocked. It gave the opportunity for the rest of the world to go and buy them because the US couldn't, or they tried to find loop arounds and things like this. So yeah, there's some skepticism there as to what's really going on. It's quite interesting. I'm sure there's things on in the background, but as consumers, as retailer investors, and institutions as well, we just got to be wary of what's going on here. So like I said, this video is just about like an unbiased opinion on both sides, trying to understand both sides' frustrations and why they're doing it, and trying to combine that, try and come to some kind of conclusion as to what we need to think about and do coming up. So again, as in previous videos, please do leave comments if you've been affected by any of these things that have been going on. What are your thoughts on it? And have you had any conversations with your banks about this situation? Let us know what they've said to you and what you're thinking about doing. Really interested to hear everyone's thoughts and feelings on this. So please do like and subscribe. Very much helps the channel out. Please do click the little bell next to subscribe as well, so you get all the notifications when we release new videos, as and when. And like I said, hope you've enjoyed this. And all it leaves me to say is, and I'm going to leave this on a positive note today rather than the previous ones, I hope to see you guys and all the financial regulations, standardizations, and exchanges adhering to them on the moon. Take care, everyone.